The part of the house of night that held the dorms was way across campus, so we had a fairly long walk, and Neferet seemed to be walking slowly on purpose, giving me plenty of time to ask questions and gawk. Not that I minded. Walking the length of the sprawling castle-like cluster of buildings with Neferet pointing out little details about what was what gave me a sense of the place. It was weird, but in a good way. Plus, walking felt normal. Actually, as odd as it sounds, I felt like myself again. I wasn't coughing, my body didn't ache, my head even stopped hurting. I was absolutely, totally not thinking about the disturbing scene I'd accidentally witnessed. I was forgetting it, on purpose. The last thing I needed was to have more to deal with now than a new life and a weird mark. So, blowjob forgotten. Deeply in denial, I'd told myself that if I hadn't been walking through a school campus at an ungodly hour of the night beside a vampire, I almost could pretend that I was in the same today as I had been yesterday. Almost. Well, okay, maybe not even almost, but my head did feel better, and I was just about ready to face my roommate when Neferet finally opened the door to the girls' dorm. Inside was a surprise. I'm not sure what I expected, maybe everything to be all black and creepy, but it was nice decorated in soft blue and antique yellow, with comfy couches and clumps of puffy pillows, big enough to sit on, dotting the room like giant pastel M&Ms. The soft gaslight, coming from several antique crystal chandeliers, made the place look like a princess's castle. On the cream-colored walls there were large orange paintings, all of them of ancient women who looked exotic and powerful. Fresh-cut flowers, almost roses, mostly roses, sat in crystal vases on end tables that were cluttered with books and purses and fairly normal-looking teenage girl stuff. I saw several flat-screen TVs and recognized the sounds of MTV's Real World coming from one of them. I took it all in of this fast while I tried to smile and appear friendly to the girls who had shut up the instant I walked in the room and were now staring at me. Well, scratch that. They weren't exactly staring at me. They were staring at the mark on my forehead. Ladies, this is Zoe Redburn. Greet her and welcome her to the House of Night. For a second, I didn't think anyone was going to say anything, and I wanted to die of a new kid mortification. Then a girl stood up from among the middle of the group that was clustered around one of the TVs. She was a tiny blonde and darn near perfect. Actually, she reminded me of a young version of Sarah Jessica Parker, who I didn't like, by the by. She's just so annoying and unnaturally perky. Hi, Zoe. Welcome to your new home. The SJP look-alikes smile was warm and genuine, and she was clearly making an effort to make eye contact instead of gawk at my darkened-in mark. Instantly, I felt bad for making a negative comparison about her. I'm Aphrodite, she said. Aphrodite? Okay, maybe I hadn't been too hasty in my comparison. How could anyone normal choose Aphrodite as her name? Please, talk about delusions of grandeur. I plastered a smile on my face, though, and said a bright, "Hi, Aphrodite." Neferet, would you like me to show Zoe to her room? Neferet hesitated, which felt really odd. Instead of answering right away, she just stood there and locked eyes with Aphrodite. Then, just as quickly as the silent stare-down had started, Neferet's face broke into a wide smile. Thank you, Aphrodite. That would be lovely. I am Zoe's mentor, but I'm sure she would feel much more welcome to someone her own age showed her to her room. Was the anger I saw flash through Aphrodite's eyes? No, I must have imagined it, or at least I would have believed I'd imagined it, if that weird new gut feeling of mine hadn't told me otherwise. And I didn't need my new intuition to clue me in that something was wrong, because Aphrodite laughed, and I recognized the sound of it. Feeling like someone had punched me in the gut, I realized that this girl, Aphrodite, had been the one I'd just watched with the guy in the hall. Aphrodite's laugh, followed by her perky, "Of course I'd be happy to show her around. You know I'm always glad to help you, Neferet," was as fake and cold as Pamela Anderson's humongous, huge boobs, but Neferet just nodded in response and then turned to face me. "I'll leave you now, Zoe," Neferet said, squeezing my shoulder. "Aphrodite, will you take her to her room, and your new roommate can help you get ready for dinner. I'll show you in the dining room." She smiled her warm, mom-like smile at me, and I had the ridiculously childish urge to hug her and beg her not to leave me alone with Aphrodite. "You'll be fine," she said, as if she could read my mind. "You'll see, Zoe Bird. All will be well," she whispered, sounding so much like my grandma that I had to blink hard not to cry. Then she nodded a quick goodbye to Aphrodite and the other girls and left the dorm. The door closed with a muffled dead sound. Oh, hell, I just wanted to go home. "Come on, Zoe, the rooms are this way," Aphrodite said. She motioned for me to come with her up to the wide stairs that curved to our right. As we walked upstairs, I tried to ignore the buzz of voices that instantly erupted behind us. Neither of us spoke, and I felt so uncomfortable that I wanted to scream. Had she seen me back there in the hall? Well, I sure as hell wasn't going to mention it. Ever. As far as I was concerned, it never happened. I cleared my throat and said, "The dorm seems nice. I mean really pretty." She cut her eyes sideways at me. "It's better than nice or really pretty here. It's amazing." "Oh, well, that's good to hear." She laughed. The sound was totally unpleasant, almost a sneer, and it crawled up the back of my neck like it had when I'd first heard it. "It's amazing here, mostly because of me." I glanced at her, thinking that she must be kidding, and met her cold blue eyes. "Yeah, you heard me right. This place is cool because I'm cool." Oh my God, what a bizarre thing for her to say. I didn't have a clue how to respond to that very stuck-up piece of info. I mean, like I needed the stress of a fight with a slutty miss thinking she's all that added on top of a life/species/school change, and I still couldn't tell whether she knew it had been me watching her in the hall. Okay, I just wanted to find a way to fit in. I just wanted to be able to call this new school home. So I decided to take the safest road and keep my mouth shut. Neither of us said anything more. The stairs led to a large hallway lined with doors. I held my breath when Aphrodite stopped before one that was painted a pretty light purple, but instead of knocking, she turned to face me. Her perfect face suddenly looked hateful and cold and definitely not pretty. "Okay, here's the deal, Zoe. You have this weird mark, so everyone's talking about you and wondering what the fuck is up with you." She rolled her eyes and clutched her pearls, dramatically changing her voice so that she sounded really silly and gushing. "Oh, the new girl has a colored-in mark. Whatever could that mean? Is she special? Does she have fabulous powers? Oh my, oh my." She dropped her hand from her throat and narrowed her eyes at me. Her voice went as flat and mean as her gaze. "Here's what's what. I'm it here. Things go my way. You want to get along here, then you best remember that. If you don't, you'll be in for a world of shit." Okay, she was starting to piss me off. "Look," I said, "I just got here. I'm not looking for trouble, and I have no control over what people are saying about my mark." Her eyes narrowed. Aw, crap. Was I going to have to actually fight this girl? I've never been able to fight in my life. My stomach knotted up, and I got ready to duck or run or whatever would not get me beat up. Then just as quickly as she'd gone all scary and hateful, her face relaxed into a smile, and she turned back into sweet little blonde again. Not that I was fooled. "Good, just so we understand each other." Huh? I understood she'd forgotten to take her meds, but that was all I understood. Aphrodite didn't give me any time to say anything. With one last weird, warm smile, she knocked on the door. "Come in," called a perky voice with an oaky accent. Aphrodite opened the door. "Hi, y'all. Oh my gosh, come in." With a huge grin, my new roomie, also a blonde, rushed up like a little countrified tornado. But the instant she saw Aphrodite, her grin slid from her face, and she stopped, hurrying towards us. "I brought your new roommate to you." There was nothing technically wrong with Aphrodite's words, but her tone was hateful, and she was putting on a terrible fake Oklahoma accent. "Stevie Ray Johnson, this is Zoe Redbird. Zoe Redbird, this is Stevie Ray Johnson. There now ain't we all nice and cozy. They're three little corns in a cob." I glanced at Stevie Ray. She looked like a terrified little rabbit. "Thanks for showing me up here, Aphrodite." I talked quickly, moving towards Aphrodite, who automatically stepped back, which put her out in the hall again. "See you around." I closed the door on her as her look of surprise was just beginning to change to anger. Then I turned to Stevie Ray, who was still pale. "What's with her?" I asked. She's Even though I didn't know her at all, I could tell that Stevie Ray was struggling with how much she could or shouldn't stay. So I decided to help her. I mean, we are going to be roommates. She's a bitch, I said. Stevie Ray's eyes went around and then she giggled. She's not very nice, that's for sure. She needs pharmaceutical help, that's for sure, I added, making her laugh some more. I think we're going to get along just fine, Zoe Redburn, she said, still smiling. Welcome to your new home. She stepped aside and made a sweeping arm gesture at a little room like she was ushering me into a palace. I looked around and blinked several times. The first thing I saw was the life-size Kenny Chesney poster that hung over one of the beds and the cowgirl, hat that rested on one of the bedside tables, the one that also had the old-fashioned looking gas lamp with a base shaped like a cowboy boot. Oh, nuh-uh, Stevie Ray was a total okie. Then she shocked me with a big hello hug, reminding me of a cute puppy with her short curly hair and her smiling round face. Zoe, I'm so glad you're feeling better. I was so worried when I heard you'd hurt yourself. I'm really glad you're finally here. Thanks, I said, still staring around what was now my room, too, feeling totally overwhelmed and weirdly on edge of tears again. It's kind of scary, isn't it? Stevie Ray was watching me with the big, serious blue eyes that were filled with sympathetic tears. I nodded, not trusting my voice. I know, I cried the whole first night. I swallowed back my own tears and asked, how long have you been here? 3 months, and man, I was glad when they told me I was getting a roommate. You knew I was coming? She nodded vigorously. Oh, yeah, Neferet told me day before yesterday that the tracker had cinched you and was going to mark you. I thought you'd be here yesterday, but then I heard that you'd had an accident and been brought to the clinic. What happened? I struggled and said, I was looking for my grandma and I fell and hit my head. I wasn't getting that weird feeling that told me to keep my mouth shut, but I wasn't sure how much I should say to Stevie Ray yet. And I was relieved when she nodded as though she understood and didn't ask any more questions about the accident or mention my weird colored mark.